Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Donathan. I'm joined today by my lovely wife, Lauren. And if you are new to the channel, I'm not sure how you found me, but I am super excited to have you here. I am thankful that you found my channel. Hopefully you find it valuable. I talk about life, relationships, entrepreneurship, just life in general, parenting. And if you find any of those topics interesting or the information I'm giving is interesting for you, I would love for you to subscribe, like the channel, like the video if it's good for you. But let's get started. Today, I brought her on. She doesn't even know what we're talking about
I
here
don't.
today. She has no idea what we're talking about, which is why I want to do this because this is how it should be. I just want natural, organic. So
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about a growing trend, which is adult children estranging their parents. And I
Mhm.
want to say 26% of adult children are estranging their fathers, about 6% is estranging their mothers. And this number continues to increase. I believe it's about a 43 increase here in 2026 of children choosing to estrange their parents. And we're going to walk through some of the reasons why. We're going to be looking at a couple of questions about why this is happening and giving our feedback on why this is happening. Both of us have kind of situations where we have had to choose to be selective about our time that we allocate to our parents, especially since having a kid and just different situations that have happened. But let's get into it. So the first thing is going no contact becoming too normal? So we live in a society today where I think people are definitely more aware about their emotional state. They care about their emotional state. They care about the kind of energy that they're receiving around them and that's in their environment. They care about the influences that their children are having. Just being part of a family or having parents or having these different titles that normally would have a bunch of weight back in the day does not carry the same weight with the current generation. The current generation wants their parents to be present. They want their parents to be truthful and honest and really just be adults. I think that's the age that we're living in. So I guess going back to the question, is going no contact becoming too normal, or do you think that it is something that is needed for a reset in the next generation and how we parent?
You're asking me first?
Yes.
I I don't think it is normal. I wouldn't even call it that. I mean, those statistics you gave, I think you said 26% of
But that's 26% have estranged fathers,
fathers and 6%.
6% have estranged mothers, and then there's
Right.
43% increase year over year
Mm,
of people that are kind of following this trend of
yeah.
estranging their parents altogether.
Yeah, so I guess back to the question, I don't think it is normal. I think we're the anomaly. I think when we speak to a lot of people both our age, even a generation older than us, and our situations are not completely estranged. So we are kind of in a I don't know, we're just in our own situations, right? Like everyone has different things that have happened to them, different experiences, different feelings, different beliefs on how they should handle situations. So I guess we should say that first is we're not completely no contact with our parents, which that's a whole nother video. Like we could explain our situation. But me personally, and for the past 3 years, have chosen to block my parents from contacting me, not my son. They still have open contact with him. Obviously, I'm there when that contact happens. But I don't think it's normal. I think we're the anomaly. I think it is different to go against the norm, which I would say most people feel like the norm is they're your parents, you got to forgive and, feel like going no contact is wrong. So no, I don't think it's becoming too normal. I think like you said earlier, which you prefaced this video really well as I think people are just becoming more aware of one, their mental health. And that was a big reason for me was for creating the situation that I have at this point was to protect my sanity, my mental health, my anxiety, things like that. So I think it's a good thing. I don't think that it's for people that need it, obviously in their situation, but I don't think that it's become too normal because I don't meet too many people that are in a similar situation, I guess to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's the opposite side of the coin too. It's just people are saying that it's we're a generation. If you estrange your parents, essentially you're too entitled. Like you feel entitled
Mm,
to all these things, and if you estrange your parents, it's like you're ungrateful for all the things. I think we live in a society now where I don't think it's people are ungrateful. Think people are willing to acknowledge anything that their parent did. Right. So
mhm,
if it's a transactional thing, and that's how you're judging parenting, which is transactional, which is your parents paid for food, your parents paid for a roof over your head, your parents paid for clothes on your back, right? If it's purely transactional, right, then I can see where maybe somebody would see that and say, okay, well, if you don't want to talk to your parents, you feel entitled to all the things that they did for you. And I think, on the opposite end of that, do parents feel too entitled? Right?
mm,
I mean, it's very easy to look and say the kid feels too entitled, the parents did all these things, but do the parents feel entitled because they're parents that they inherently the kid is automatically supposed to respect them. The kid is automatically supposed to put in effort to have a relationship with them. A kid is automatically, expected to endorse and embrace everything that they do. I mean, if you have a parent that was abusive, if you have a parent that was verbally abusive, if you have a parent that was an alcoholic, if you have a parent that was negligent, if you had a parent that was doing things that weren't conducive for you, growing up and maturing and things like this in the household, I mean, are you just supposed to embrace those things as well? Say, "Oh, you know what? I'm thankful I had a dad that was an alcoholic. I'm thankful I had a parent who beat the shit out of me. I'm thankful, and these are things that we should just accept. I don't think anybody accepts those things. So I think entitlement can be looked at on both perspectives, where just holding the parent title, it entitles you to having access to your kids, and a kid choosing to estrange their parent, maybe they feel entitled to things that their parents are giving. Because I've also seen
mhm,
that too, where it's like some kids, feel like their parents should be doing more, meaning they should be giving them more resources or doing more things for them.
mhm,
Biblically, I'm not going to get into the Bible here, but biblically, the parents are supposed to leave, future generations inheritance. And I'm not saying I expect that from my parents, but I'm just, based on your core values and principles. And I mean, we live in a country today that we say are supposed to be around Christian values. I think what has become too normal is just allowing parents to be bad parents and expecting kids to just accept bad parenting. I think that has become too normal over years and years and years of compounding bad parenting. And so, with that, I'm going to go to the next question,
yeah, that
which is, do parents deserve forgiveness just because they're your parents? And here's the thing, I think every situation is going to be different. I think depending on what is being forgiven, some things it may take longer for somebody to heal. Depending on how much the trauma was, depending on how much it impacted that person's life, that there's going to be a lot of factors in determining forgiveness.
mhm,
But I think overall, I think any person that you come in contact with deserves forgiveness. I don't think that that means you have to be involved in their life. I don't
mhm,
think that means you have to have a bunch of engagement and contact with them.
yeah,
Forgiveness is something that I believe is on an individual level. And so I can forgive somebody, but not deal with that person,
yeah,
right? So I think, yes, everybody deserves forgiveness
mhm,
on an individual level, but that does not mean I have to go and have a relationship
yeah.
with that person.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, anyone, parent or not, deserves forgiveness. I think it's, again, situational. I think it's more depending on the person who's wanting forgiveness to show, to listen, I'm not going to say understand because no one's can say that they completely understand someone else all the time, but at least show willingness to, I guess, remorse, right? Like for whatever happened, whatever the situation was, I think people can do that. I think people can change. I think people can be sorry for certain situations that they've caused. So I think anyone, yeah, parent or not, deserves forgiveness. But again, I think that there's certain criteria, I guess, to someone being open to receiving that, on their end, as well as mine, and like Donnie said, I mean, you can forgive like in your heart, but you can still protect, your space. Forgive, maybe not forget, like I can forgive you, but I'm not going to forget what happened. I'm still going to have caution if it's not fully not received, but fully earned on their part, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, I think everyone deserves forgiveness, parent or not.
So the next question is, does becoming a parent change how you judge your own parents?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's a very straightforward. I don't really know how to express that myself, but I think just one, becoming a parent, we can all maybe agree that we want the best for our children, right? And I think when you have certain situations where maybe your parents are fully estranged or partly estranged, I think having a child puts a different perspective on that too. Because now not only do you see it differently because of how you feel towards your children, but you also want to protect your children from for certain situations, certain people and attitudes and things like that. So it has for me, yes. I think it was slow for me personally. It was like a slow seeing. It wasn't like as soon as I had a child, I was like, nope, like completely changed my perspective. But yes, I think it has over time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I think when you become a parent, one of the biggest things is you realize how many choices parents have. And I
Mm,
think, when you're reaching certain crossroads about what you're choosing to do for your kids, what you're choosing in terms of time that you want to spend with your kids, what you're doing in terms of what you're trying to expose or show your kids, and then how you choose to live your life, right?
yeah.
So, like a lot of the, I guess, previous generations, one of the biggest things that you constantly hear is all these sacrifices that parents make for their kids. And really, when I became a parent, I wasn't looking at anything that I did as a sacrifice. Like I would never want to give up my dreams for my kid, right? Because obviously, if my dream is inclusive of my family and things that I'm trying to give my family and things I'm trying to do for my family, why would I give that up? That would
Mhm.
mean I'm shortening the what I'm going to end up doing for my family. So
Yeah.
essentially, like a lot of what I think previous generations would do is they would blame their circumstances on their kids. So we're also not looking at what previous bad behaviors previous generations would have, which is, hey, if we're broke, it's because I made all these sacrifices. If I didn't get to go out and take as many vacations, it's because I made the sacrifices for the kids. If I didn't get the car that I wanted, it's because I did all these things for the kids. If I didn't get the house that I wanted, it's because of all these things that we had to do for you kids and all these things that we do. If I didn't have the career that I wanted to have, I had to be, it's because I had, it's like everything is being pushed off on your kids. And I think it's the exact opposite, right? Most people are not willing to do these things on their own without kids. So now they just have a crutch, right? We in society have this thing where we want to push blame and point blame at other people. And so that's what a lot of parents do a lot of times. When you listen to what parents are saying many times, where it's like, we made these sacrifices for you. We did this. Well, before you had kids, were you eating? Before you had kids, were you living in a house? Before you had kids, were you working a job? Most time it's yes, right? So you were already doing most of the things that you were doing before you had a kid.
Mhm.
And now that you have a kid, you're trying to blame all your circumstances on your kid. Your kid didn't tell you not to work harder. Your kid didn't tell you not to chase your dreams. Your kid didn't tell you to, go out and live in abundance instead of living in scarcity. You chose to do that. And you probably were living like that prior to having a kid anyway. So I think, when I became a parent, what I realized is a lot of the choices that my parents were making, whether it was to drink, whether it was to go out and do social things on their own, whether it was to not save for us on a consistent basis, whatever those things were, that's their choices. And I don't blame them. I don't look negatively on them. I don't think that they're wrong for doing it. I just realized that I have those choices. I have the same choices that they had. They made their choices. I'm making different ones. I don't look down. I don't think it's bad parenting. I'm just saying when you become a parent, you realize all these decision points that you have as a parent, and they are independent decisions that you're making. And it has nothing to me to do with your kid.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, were we going to be living, with a roof over our head? Were we going to have clothes on our back? Were we going to have food on the table? We were going to do that regardless of if we had kids. Now that we have kids, we have a responsibility, in my opinion, to accelerate past just what the basic necessities are. But that's just my
Right.
view.
Our views. Yeah. Yeah.
So next thing we're going to get into is, when is cutting off a parent actually justified? And is it ever justified? I believe anytime you feel that you need to cut off a parent, if you feel that mentally, physically, emotionally, it is preventing you from living your best life, I think you need to cut off a parent. And I think that as a parent, now that we're parents, if our son ever felt that what we were giving to him energy wise, his emotional state, whatever it may be, if he felt like he needed to cut us off, it's my job as a parent, because we're supposed to be the mature ones as parents. I think we also forget that, is that, when you're looking at a parent, they're supposed to be the ones that are guiding, providing wisdom, being the more mature person in the relationship. And so as a parent, I would have to take a more mature role. If my son chose to cut me off, it would be my job to try to figure it out. It would be my job to keep trying to maintain or rebuild the relationship, or figure out, what I did wrong, and be willing to change or adjust. I'm not saying that we're here to coddle our kids. I'm not saying that we're here to be the emotional blanket for our kids. What I'm saying is, a mature person, a person with wisdom, understands that sometimes the way that we come off, sometimes the energy that we bring, sometimes our bias, sometimes the things that we think are right are not always right for everyone. And this goes and extends to any relationship
Mhm.
you have, friendship, work, anything, right? So my thing is, with my kid, if I'm the adult, I'm the parent, I'm going to be the mature one. I'm going to sit back and be able to try to understand their perspective. I'm going to be able to look at myself and think about things that I can do differently. And if my son decides to cut me off, that doesn't mean that I stop trying to have a relationship with him. It doesn't mean that I don't try to change and be a better parent when he becomes an adult. He needs a different side of me. He needs a different version of me
Mhm.
than the person who just puts food on the table, than the person that just has a roof over his house, right? He
Mhm.
needs me to be a different relationship for him because he's an adult now. And I think parents need to understand that when your kid becomes an adult, they need a different relationship
Yeah.
than the relationship they had when you're just, changing their diapers and putting food on the table. They need a different adult. And I think parents have to be willing to become a different adult in that relationship, because it's a different relationship at that point.
Yeah. I would agree with all of what you said. Yeah, I think person to person, I think, is what determines justification of cutting a parent off or anyone off. I think you had a little note there that caught my attention, but it says, like, ask whether separation is protection or punishment. So obviously, I think separating yourself from anyone, parent or not, to punish them is coming from a different place than protecting yourself,
Yeah.
right? I guess there's a fine line between that, where, like, cutting someone off or choosing to cut your parents off, in my situation, I'll just speak on my situation, was never about punishment. Although on the other end, they may feel it is. It was never about that. It's more protection of myself, my family, my son. I think that's also something to consider as well, because I think when people are in certain situations, emotions are there naturally, as they are everywhere. And I think sometimes it can be easy to get petty or feel like, you need to get petty, but I don't think that's ever a situation to cut anyone off. I think it's and you'll know,
Yep.
in your situation, when it is protection versus
Petty.
punishment or pettiness. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with most of what you said to that.
All right. And our final question is, are we losing the ability to repair relationships?
No, I don't think so. I think we're actually generation to generation,
Going in the opposite
yeah, is
direction. Yeah, I think
actually
it's going in the
getting
opposite direction.
uh, better at repairing or understanding. I'm not saying I'm perfect either,
Yeah.
but, like, understanding what it takes to repair a relationship, I think. And again, I'll just speak on my situation and a lot of the views of my family, even older family members who are not my parents. I'm not, again, not judging, but it's hard for them to communicate. It's hard for them to express feelings for whatever reason that is. I don't know, like, everyone has their things that they go through on a personal level, but, I think as we see generation to generation, I think it's getting more understood on how to maybe approach something in a different way or express ourselves, or even like Donnie was saying, be able to communicate as adults now. Like, we are millennials, but, like, as adults now, how or what we need in a relationship from our parents, I think, is getting clearer and clearer to each generation, or, you know, just each younger person that comes after us. So, yeah, I think we're actually going in the opposite direction. What do you feel about
Yeah,
that?
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think, one thing is I think we live now where people want more of an intellectual relationship and not a surface level relationship. So I
Mhm.
think, previous generations is very surface level, which is, okay, I'm your dad, so there's a relationship. I'm your mom, so there's a relationship. I'm the grandma, so there's a relationship. And I think now people are more intellectual, where it's like, I want a relationship where somebody cares about what I want to do with my life. I want somebody to care about my kids. I want somebody to, be willing to call me and me not always have to call them.
Yeah.
So I think people just are looking for more
Mhm.
in-depth relationships. I don't think that it's an entitlement thing. I think it's a relationship thing,
Yeah,
right?
agreed.
It's weird because I feel when people are kind of in the dating phase of a relationship, like a love relationship, whatever you want to call it, people understand that, right? The guy will text and call the girl will call and text the guy. I mean, there's a lot of effort put in. You're trying to get to know each other, da 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 da. And then I feel like, for most relationships, a lot of that dies. And I think that is an important thing that it always should be. I'm trying to understand you. I'm trying to get better for you. I'm trying to, grow with you. I'm trying to help you hit your goals and all that. I feel like in the beginning of relationships, you have a lot of that trying to understand
Yeah.
and trying to be better. And then, as kind of relationships go on, you see that kind of fade out. And I think that's a super important piece of the puzzle. And I think if you look at the early days, you see the parent very, astute to their kids. We want to make sure our kids are there. Your kid is crying. So you kind of innately have to be more aware of like, okay, why are they
Mhm.
crying? Are they crying because they're hungry? Are they crying because they want me to hold them? Like, what are they crying for? And a parent is willing to try to investigate and figure out what can I do to, my kid be more comfortable or
Mhm.
better in the situation or in the relationship. And then as they get older, that kind of fades away. And I think that's where, it takes effort from a parent and the kid to try to figure out, how can we have a good relationship
Yeah.
that's mutually beneficial, not just a one-sided relationship that is entitled. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of people online that will say, okay, the kid feels entitled. But honestly, I feel like the parent feels entitled because I'm your parent. That inherently means that you're supposed to be doing all these things as a
Mhm.
kid, right? You're passing all the responsibility of the relationship on the kid. The kid should be contacting the parent. The kid should be just forgiving their parent. If you're looking at the adult or the mature one in the relationship, it would be the parent. The
The
parent is the
elder.
one that's supposed to have the wisdom. The parent is the one that's supposed to, be able to heal relationships. The parent
Yeah.
is the one that should be looking at the relationship and being more mature about it. If we're just looking at roles purely, because that's
Mhm.
why people are saying there's entitlement, is because the kid feels entitled to something that the parent should be doing. But a parent should want to do those things. And I'm not talking financially. I'm saying a parent should want to invest time into the relationship as being the parent, the
Mhm.
mature one, the wise one, and the one that's trying to give their kid enough autonomy to
Yeah.
grow, but also being there and supportive on their journey of life
Yeah.
that the parent has already gone through on their own.
Yeah, and really, I think the mindset shift that is happening, like I was mentioning earlier, from I guess generation to generation, truly, I think is better for relationships. Like Donnie said, I mean, we are yearning for a more intellectual, a deeper relationship with our parents, our friendships. I think everything. So I think that innately just creates better relationships. I also think relationships, like you mentioned, are earned or respect is earned. I think previous generations, it was like, respect is just this thing that we're your parents, so you need to respect us. And I think as we grow up, as generations come, I think it's just a mindset shift that's happening that respect, parent or not, respect is earned. A relationship is earned, not just because they're your parents or someone is your elder. I mean, no one you wouldn't send your kid to school and say, if their teacher was like whooping them or treating them like speaking negatively about them or something like that, you wouldn't say, well, you need to respect just because they're your elder or
And so,
because
some people would say that. In this day and age, they would not. But
right.
there are some people that would say,
Yeah,
"Hey, that is a respect thing, and that's what used to happen." And
correct. Is that
the
mindset
thing is,
shift.
in these same schools, kids were also getting molested. So
Mm,
it's that comfort level that used to happen, and this happens in parenting too, where there's a
yeah.
comfort level of parents doing things that they know they're not supposed to be doing in
Yeah.
that relationship, and
Mhm.
that leads to a lot of molestation. That leads to
Yes.
a lot of things that happen inside of these families,
Yes.
and you need to just respect people because they're your elder.
Mhm.
That leads to a lot of the things that have happened.
Abuse
And
like that.
abuse and
Yeah.
verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and
Mhm.
then physical abuse, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is where that comes from.
Yeah.
And it's like kids are so afraid and ashamed
Yes.
to tell on them because it's like they're an elder.
Yeah.
And I think now kids are more awakened to like, this is not something I have to take. This
Yeah.
isn't something I just have to do. And I don't have to respect a person who's not respecting me, especially I
Exactly.
think when you become an adult, you
Mhm.
start realizing I can choose who I want to engage with and
Mhm.
I don't have to engage with somebody that chooses not to respect
Yeah.
me, my household, my family, my kids.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and not it's also not teaching your kids boundaries, that boundaries are okay to have, for whatever reason. Like, it could be a reason that maybe you just can't explain. It could be just a way that someone makes you feel. Maybe that's make you feel uncomfortable. It's okay to have boundaries with people, and I think that's also something that, we find value in teaching our son, that no matter who someone is, like, if you feel however you feel, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to feel how you feel and not be afraid to feel that way, I guess, whether someone's your parent, grandparent, teacher, or whatever it is, it's like, and you can speak your mind.
So
Yeah.
thank you for joining me today, Lauren. It was great to have you on the channel. I'm gonna end with this. I don't think that parent-child relationship should be saved at any cost. Like, I think you have to protect yourself, but I also don't think every relationship that's not functional needs to lead to abandonment, right? I
Mhm,
think that, you have
mhm.
to figure out what's the best thing for you in your life and your mental sanity. And
Yeah,
especially when you become a parent and you have your own family,
yeah.
you need to decide what's best for your family, what's going to help your family grow, what's going to help you guys get where you need to get to. The other generation has already lived.
Yes.
They've already lived their life. So it's time for you to live your life and
Yep.
live your life the way that you want to live it.
If you're on the other side of this, maybe you are the estranged person. It is always the goal for us to, like, a relationship is always the goal. It's never, again, about punishment. I think forgiveness is always the goal. But again, I think it takes both sides being willing and being vulnerable is a big thing there. Like, being willing to admit your mistakes to grow from that. So I'll leave that too, because I guess I don't know if someone would watch this and be maybe on the other side. And I guess if you've watched this long through this, hopefully you are trying to understand maybe your child or whoever it is on the other end of the estrangement relationship or whatever. So I would say to just keep trying to work on that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. And if you
Thanks for
found
having
this
me.
content helpful or you have some insights of your own, either you are
Mhm.
the parent that has been estranged or you have estranged your parents, we would love your feedback and your comments. This is just our perspective that we have, and we haven't got into our story, maybe which we'll get into on a different episode of why we chose to do the partial or full estrangement to our parents. But if you found this content to be helpful or useful, or you just liked our chat, please like and subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our family here. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.